Hey everybody, it's Becky from Power Tools with Thread. I wanted to do a video for you today to show you how to create pre-cut applique pieces for machine embroidery designs that are supposed to be applique, but they may not come with the SVG files that you need in order to be able to cut the pieces. And you want to make sure that those pieces are the right size. So it's really important, first of all, to understand the traditional method of doing applique and what those steps are, because those steps are going to be completed in the design file for you. Usually from the designer, they will be in this order. Oh, and this is assuming you may not have any embroidery software to be able to create your own SVG files either. So when an applique is going to be digitized by the digitizer, they will create a placement line, and you are supposed to put your fabric over the placement line, a big square or chunk of fabric. So the placement line is the first stitch or the lowest stitch in the design file. And then they will have you put the fabric over that placement line, and then it will stitch the tack down stitch. And the tack down stitch, depending on the digitizer, will either be directly on top of the placement line, or it might be outside of it, just a hair, or sometimes even inside of it. It completely depends on the digitizer. Once the tack down stitch occurs, so that's stitch number 2, you're supposed to pull the hoop and trim all the way around the tack down stitch, and then from there, hit the button again and your machine will go ahead and stitch the final stitch, whether it's a satin or a blanket or E-stitch or run or bean or whatever it is that the design calls for. So you've got 3 layers of applique stitches: a placement line, a tack down, and the final stitch. And that's important to keep in mind as we go through how to import an applique embroidery design into the ScanNCut, and then source out all of those files and figure out which ones you actually need to be able to create your cut files. So I'm going to use the Turkey Trot Trivet from Smart Needle to show you how this is done. So let's get over to the ScanNCut. I have the design on a USB, so to get it, I'm going to touch retrieve data, because pattern are patterns that were in the machine when you bought it. You get other designs from retrieve data. You might get them from a cloud or whatever, but I have this design on the USB that's already in the machine. Okay, and I'm going to use my arrows over here on the side to scan down to find it. And there it is right there. So it says Turkey Trivet Pot for pot holder, PES. This tells you this is an embroidery design. So I'm going to tap it. And you can see there's no SVG files. There's no cut files. Now, you can touch the applique, the little shield, you can touch that, but it'll come up and say the pattern doesn't contain cutting line data for appliques. Well, that's no help. So what you want to do is tell it, okay. And you're going to come over here to this flower. And this flower, don't fiddle with the size, because that's the size the designer wants it to be. So we're just going to tell it okay. But what you get when you tap okay is you're going to get, you've got outside only, inside outside, and final stitches. And that's a little zigzag there for the final stitches. I want to go to final stitches, and I'm going to tell it okay. And again, the size, don't fiddle with it, but right here, there is a grouping button that keeps all of these together. I'm going to touch that so that I'll be able to manipulate the individual 3 sets of stitches. So I'm going to tell it set. Let's look at what we've got here. Okay, I'm going to touch this, and the whole thing is all kind of grouped together as one. So you want to go into edit, and up here these 3 red boxes are a grouping button. I'm going to hit group. Do I want to choose some of the mat or all of the mat? I'm just going to, the entire mat is selected already. I'm going to deselect it, and you see all of the red boxes went away. And what I'm interested in getting is the inside circle. That is my background circle fabric, and then all of the placement lines for the embroidery design. So I'm going to touch this outside circle. I don't need that, so I'm going to put this down over here. And let me tell it okay. I'm going to just hit the trash can and get that out of there because it's too big. So now it's jumped over to the beak and the little wattle. Now I'm going to pull this apart, and if you notice, this has got the final blanket stitching and it's got detail stitches for a smile and his little nose. I don't need that, so I'm going to pull that up here. That's going to be my little, where everything is going to be trashed, okay? So now, there is the wattle, and if you look, there's this one, and here's another one. So we're going down in the stitch order, right? Remember I told you there were 3. So this is your placement line, there's your tack down, and this is the final stitching. So this is the tack down. I don't need that one. I'm going to move this one over here, and I'm going to get this one, and this is the one I want. This is the one that is the exact size that needs to fit inside of that placement line. So that's going to be a cut file. Let's grab something else. Here's the beak. You can see the little blanket stitches. That's the final stitching. I don't need that. There's the tack down line. There's the placement line. I need this one. Let's grab the eyes. Okay, there's my final stitching. There's the tack down. There's the placement lines right there. See how I'm doing this? Get rid of those top 2. Now sometimes you'll have designs that only have a placement line and final stitching, and you won't have that second stitch, and that's okay. Just kind of understand the build of appliques, and then you'll get that. So this is these little eyes up here. I don't need those. Those are detail stitches for the pupils. Okay, so there are the final stitches on the comb. There are the tack down for the comb, and there is the placement, or the placement line for the comb. Okay. Now you can see this looks like a double line right here. So I'm assuming that the tack down for this inside background fabric is larger than the placement. So I'm going to grab it and move it over here. Okay, and that's the one I want for that. All right, so now I'm going to touch this one and hit the trash can and tell it okay. And it's got a couple of them. Now you need all of those stitches. Those are not applique. I'm going to tell it okay. We've got bunches of them. A lot of times they are placement line for batting and then placement line for background fabric. And then this great big one up here, I'm going to trash. And I'm doing this individually now because these are so close together. All right. And I'm just going to tell it okay. Now I'll get rid of that. Now, it's just kind of jumping around to select something. I'm going to select something up here and get that red box off of the lines that I want. I'm going to hit my group button again, and I only want to select part of the mat, and I'm going to drag this up. So everything that is inside of this box is selected. I'm going to tell it okay. See that? Now they're all selected. I'm going to tell it okay, and I'm going to hit the trash can. And okay. So now all that I am left with are my placement lines that I need in order to make my cut files. So I probably don't have enough room on this 12 by 12 mat, but I can change it to a 12 by 24 when I am in the, well, I don't know, but I can change it to the 12 by 24 when I am in the cutting mode. So I'm going to tell this okay. And now I want to save it. And I'm going to save it in the machine. So it's number 44 in the machine's memory. All right, there we go. So now I can go back to home and delete all patterns. I'm going to tell it okay because I already saved it. Now I want to cut. So I'm going to go to Retrieve Data, out of the machine. Number 44, it's at the end right here, and tell it okay. Now I am ready to load a mat with my fabric on it and scan that mat. I'm going to go back because I don't have a mat in there. And then you'll be able to cut from those, and you're guaranteed that they're going to fit exactly where they need to fit within the placement lines, because this cut file is created from the placement line itself. That's it. That's how you create applique cut files from an applique design that doesn't come with the cut file, and you don't need any embroidery software at all, which is very cool. So if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Always got lots of tips and tricks for you to get stitching in your sewing room. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll talk to you soon. You guys go sew something. Bye.